day, we were talking about embodiment practices, and I was asking you guys, this was on Friday, so if you weren't here on Friday, you may have missed this, but I posed a question to you guys and I said, what does embodied movement mean to you? So I don't know if any of you guys had the chance to think about that over the weekend or to go a little bit deeper into what that means to you. But I want to talk a little bit about that life force, right? That breath that animates us. And when we're animated by our breath, our life force is moving through us, right? And so when our life force is moving through us, we are alive. And there is an awareness that's within. And it's that awareness, that spirit that is operating through the vehicle of the body that is embodied, right, inside of the body. So we're saying that there's something bigger. There's this thing called awareness that is inside of us, that's part of our inner self, our inner experience. And that awareness is embodied in a physical experience. So part of what we do in our yoga practice is we observe what that is. We observe from that inner witness, from that awareness, what is it to be in this body, right? And so go ahead and lie down on your back to start. So you don't have to sit there and listen to me. You can go ahead and lie down on your back and start relaxing your body and start allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. Start making that connection to your breath, allowing your body to settle in. And as your body settles in, you find that awareness. You find that like window that looks out. And usually that window is looking out into the external world. But when we set ourselves up on this rectangle of our mat, we're making the time and the commitment to spend that time looking into the internal world. And we have certain inner strengths and we have certain outer strengths, right? And a lot of times, pardon my neighbor's dog, a lot of times we get really overly identified what the outer strength looks like. But here in yoga, we're really here to cultivate more of our inner strength, and we do that through the lens of our practice. So I want to just talk about a few key inner strengths that we can utilize today, that we can look through the lens of today. And those inner strengths are grit, gratitude, compassion, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence. So I will bring your attention several times throughout the practice today to all of those different types of inner strength. And today's practice on a physical level, we will be focusing a lot on the hips. And sometimes our hips can store unprocessed emotions. So that's why I mentioned emotional intelligence, the ability to watch an emotion rise, ride it through to the end, and watch it subside. So that might happen in today's practice. So we're lying down on our backs and we're taking a moment here to deeply connect to that inner awareness, that inner witness. And if you think of your body as an instrument and your practice as being that which tunes the instrument of your body, it's that life force inside of you that is the music. So it's yes, you have this vehicle, this integrated body, mind, and breath, spirit, right? And it's allowing you to carry your uniqueness and your specialness embodied in the body that you have to do whatever work it is that you do in the world. So let's just breathe into that for a few rounds of breath. I want you guys to slow your breath down so that your inhale is taking place over a count of 4 seconds. There's a brief pause at the top of the inhale, and the exhale is taking place over the count of 4 seconds as well. And continue to breathe like this. 4-second count in, a pause at the top, a 4-second count out, with a pause at the bottom. So what we're doing is we're really fine-tuning our awareness here by saying, okay, awareness, here's the very simplest and steadiest thing that we can focus on. We can focus on the simplicity and the consistency of the life force breathing us. So just be quiet with yourself for about another minute and observe that focus, observe that awareness. Notice that sometimes you get distracted. That is totally okay. You just bring yourself back because you're practicing right now. 4-second count in and a 4-second count out. Great. So on your own timing, on your next inhale breath, stretch your arms back behind you, stretch your legs out in front of you. Just imagine you were being pulled like traction. You can feel the vertebrae in your spine getting a little bit more spacious as you stretch. And then try to engage every muscle in your body in this stretch position like you're yawning. Engage them in the stretch. Good, and as you exhale, allow your muscles to soften and gently hug both knees in towards your chest. This is gentle. So you just observe, what is it like to place your body in this position? What do you feel on the gross level, and what do you feel on the subtle level? Can you distinguish between the two? And which one of those inner strengths can you approach this moment of your practice? What's coming up for you? This moment probably doesn't need grit unless you're feeling super anxious and you just want to get moving. But maybe it involves mindfulness or compassion. Maybe your back wants to open up more slowly today than you would like it to open up. And you just breathe into that with compassion. Great, now keep hugging your right knee in towards your chest. Extend your left leg out on the yoga mat and think of the inner thigh side of your left leg getting heavy down towards the floor. You're gripping the top of your right knee with both of your hands, and you're imagining that your left foot is standing on the wall in front of you. So that leg is engaged and nice and strong. And now start to circle your right thigh bone inside of your hip socket. And I think I said this the other day, it's like your thigh bone is a spoon and you're trying to scrape the inside of the bowl, and the inside of the bowl is your hip socket. So continue to circle and observe, what do you feel? What's going on? Where do you feel a stretch? When do you feel a stretch? What else is going on? Are your toes stuck in position? Do they have some movement to them? Go ahead and start to circle in the opposite direction. And you feel your abdominals participating in this movement as you stabilize your pelvis. Can you feel the strength of your left leg? Good. And then pause when your knee is stacked on top of your hip. Pass your leg into your left hand. Extend your right arm out to the right and slowly take a twist over, gazing towards your right arm. And just take this nice and slow. Every breath is going to help you, assist you melt into the posture, melt into the shape. So as you inhale, it's almost as if you can feel a stretch from the inside out. Your breath is stretching you. And as you exhale, the muscles and the fascia can take up a little bit more space. They can melt a little bit more. Try to stay with the 4-second count in and the 4-second count out with a little pause in between each one. Beautiful. Now slowly bring it back to the center and pass your right leg into your right hand. Your knee is still stacked pretty much on top of your hip. Place your left hand on top of your left thigh and slowly start to bring your right knee out towards the right. So we're in an external rotation, but our knee is still bent.
Now start to angle your foot a little bit more towards the ceiling, and then slide your hand through the inside of your leg. If you can catch your big toe, cool. If not, you can just catch a hold of your ankle. So you're in like a half happy baby now here. Pulling your knee down towards your armpit as you stamp your foot up towards the ceiling. And then any amount, you can start to extend that right leg out towards straight. And it doesn't have to get straight. You're just exploring. Good. Now wherever you're gripping, you might need to take your hand down to your calf. Bring your leg back up to the top, whatever the top means for you. Pass your leg towards your left hand. Extend your right arm out to the right again. And with a straighter right leg, slowly start to twist over. So there might be a few stopping points. I like to kind of place my left elbow on the floor and make a little stand for my inner right calf so I can direct and guide this a little bit more slowly. Let your breath help you get there. Good. And then some of you guys might start to bend your left knee, so the leg that you were standing on before, and with your right hand, maybe you catch a hold of that foot or ankle, and you're in kind of like a pretzel here. If you have your foot or ankle, use your right thumb to massage the sole of your left foot. Good. And then release your left foot. Take your right arm all the way up and behind you. Roll towards your left side. Catch your right leg and roll back to the center so that your right leg is extended up towards the ceiling. Good. Bend your left knee. Cross your right ankle over your left knee and hug your left knee in towards your chest. So we're in thread the needle. We have a strong flexion of our right foot. How about a strong flexion of the left foot as well? Good. And then start to straighten your left leg up towards the ceiling. Any amount. Good. And then I want you to imagine that you are in a standing pigeon. So with your left foot still up towards the ceiling, it's as if you started to squat. And so it might not go that far, but you're thinking about bending your left knee without letting your heel fold in towards your butt. So the sole of your foot stays straight up towards the ceiling. Now, find your abdominals and stabilize where your pelvis is in space. And then find your block. I should have told you to have it nearby. Take your block the wide way, squeeze it between the palms of your two hands. So you're in like a standing pigeon, except you're lying on your back. Your arms are extended straight up towards the ceiling. Squeeze the block like crazy, and as you inhale, reach the block back behind you, keeping your back ribs glued down to the yoga mat, already building some heat here. And as you exhale, lift your arms straight back up towards the ceiling. You're squeezing the block like crazy. Let's do that twice more. Inhale, 4 counts to reach your arms back. Back ribs stay glued down. You've stabilized your pelvis. Awesome. And as you exhale, bring it back up to the center. One more time. Inhale, reach it back behind you. Back ribs stay pressing down. Scoop out your lower abdomen. And as you exhale, bring it back up to the top. Good. Move your block aside. Release your left leg down to the floor. Hug your right knee in towards your chest. So right back where we started from. Except now what I want you to do is I want you to try to make the right side of your waist, the right side of your torso, as long as you can. Think about moving your right sitting bone towards the arch of your left foot. And your left foot is again standing on the wall in front of you. Just breathe. What parts of your inner strength are you using right now? What components? Awesome. Hug your left knee into your chest as well. And take a moment to just recalibrate. We started here. You might observe that things feel a little bit different than they did initially. You might feel all stretched out on one side and all kind of scrunched up on the other side. Let's even it out. So keep hugging your left leg in. Extend your right leg down on the yoga mat. Inner thigh side of your right leg down. Of course, you could bend your knee and place the sole of your foot down if this is too intense. Hugging onto the top of your left knee. Stabilize where your pelvis is, but start to circle your thigh bone inside of your hip socket. Make lots of big, huge circles, just exploring the interior of that hip socket. and then circle the other way. So you're not just exploring the interior of your hip socket, you're observing your habits. I'm noticing that my toes are clenched, like they're stuck. So I'm moving my toes around at the same time. Try to find some alternate ways to hold energy in my body. Good, now stack your left knee on top of your left hip. Catch your left knee with your right hand, left arm out to the left, and slowly twist it over, gazing towards your left hand. You absorb this shape slowly, gradually, because we're teaching ourselves how to move energy mindfully through our body. We know that anything that we're holding in our emotional space is going to affect the way that we move, the way that we breathe, the way that we experience our body. So we're weaving in the emotional intelligence. We're letting ourselves move through any emotional experiences that might come up, whether it's frustration, whether it's boredom, whether it's feeling the inability to concentrate or to focus. We just ride through whatever comes along with that. Great, so make your way back to the center. Same thing, left knee stacked on top of the hip as you pass your leg into your left hand. Bring your right hand to the top of your right thigh and slowly start to externally rotate. So you have a bent left knee and you're pulling it out towards the side. Good, and then you make that transition, and you can use your other hand if you need help. Bring your left arm through the inseam of your leg, catch your ankle or your big toe, and come into a half happy baby on your left-hand side. I'm gonna go with my ankle. You guys can see that. Pulling your knee down towards your armpit as your foot stamps up towards the ceiling. What's going on with that right leg? Did it flop out to the side? Is it still engaged? Are you still standing on that imaginary wall? If you started to straighten your left leg, or your right leg, or whatever leg, on the other side, go ahead and start to straighten your left leg any amount. Good, and then wherever you're holding onto that leg, and that's why, if you have that strap, you can use it. Bring the leg across, pass it to your other hand, extend your left arm out to the left, and with a straighter left leg, you start to bring it across. You can drop your right elbow down to the floor and use your fingertips to create a stand so that you can slide it out a little bit more gradually. Take a few breaths here. See if you can move the left hip away from the left waist. And then some of you guys bend your right knee so your heel moves towards your booty. Reach down with your left hand. If your ankle's there, catch it. If not, don't worry about it. If you did catch it, make sure you place your left shoulder blade back down on the floor. And if you're holding onto your foot, give it a little massage to the sole of your foot. Notice where there's tension. Notice where maybe there's things that are popping and snapping in there. Releasing energy. Good. Now release your foot if you have it. Straighten out your right leg. Take your left arm, reach it up and back over your head. Roll all the way to your right side. Catch your leg with both hands and slowly roll yourself back up to the top. Yeah? You're holding your leg anywhere. Bend your right knee. Cross your left ankle on top of your right knee and hug your right knee into your chest for thread the needle. And just regular old thread the needle for now. Flexing strongly through both feet. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to not be mindful of certain areas. So we keep observing, we keep circulating that awareness. Great, and then straighten your right leg up towards the ceiling. You might experience a bit of a hamstring stretch in your right leg. Good, now imagine you were squatting, so your foot is still angled up towards the ceiling. You start to bend your knee. It might just bend a micro bend. That's what's happening for me. Find your block again. Squeeze your block the wide way between the palms of your hands. Squeeze it like crazy so that you feel your belly muscles already starting to work. And then as you inhale, reach your arms back behind you, stabilizing the pelvis. Notice that, pressing the back ribs down. And exhale, come back up to the top. Do that twice more, 4 counts. Observe what you feel. Observe the places you go right into it and observe the places where you skirt or skate around it. One more time. Good. And And then move your block aside, hold on to your left leg, melt your right leg back down to the floor, or back where we started from. Hugging your left knee in nice and tight to your chest. Can you make more space on the left side of your waist? Can you make the left side of your torso just as long as the right side of your torso? Awesome. And then add your right knee back in. You're hugging both knees into your chest. We're back home again. Observe how it feels. Good. And then bring your arms to both inseams of your legs. Catch your ankles or your feet or your big toes. Take happy baby full on, like you're doing a humongous squat on top of the ceiling. Roll your tailbone as much as you can down onto the floor. Make sure your butt's not rolling up off of the floor. Yeah. Good. And then one more time, close the legs, hug the knees in towards the chest. And you can rock and roll up and down the length of your spine, or you can roll over and press yourself over to hands and knees. Okay, so as we come onto hands and knees, take a few moments and really observe your process of setting up. I say the same things all the time. Make sure the hands are directly underneath the shoulders. Make sure the knees are directly underneath the hips. Gently start to draw the belly muscles in so that the abdominal wall is supporting your lower back. And then we're going to start to make those humongous hip circles from here. So, I'm showing you my left leg, but you guys start with your right leg. Start circling your right leg around and around. I'm switching sides. Right leg is circling, and you're observing how your abdominals are participating. Can you stabilize your pelvis here? And we're going to do this a bunch of times, so just get comfortable with it. Good, and then start to circle the opposite direction. Great, so the next time your knee is out towards the side, hold your knee out towards the side. Turn the right side of your waist down so that your torso is equally squaring towards the floor, and bring your left elbow out to the left like you're doing a lat pull down. As you inhale, stretch your arm forward, stretch your leg back behind you. And as you exhale, bring your knee out to the side, bring your elbow out to the side. 4 count inhale to stretch the arm forward and the leg backward. 4 count exhale to bend the elbow and to bend the knee. One more time, inhale, extend and get long. And exhale, bend the elbow, bend the knee. Good, place your hand back down on the mat, send your legs straight back behind you. Feel the inner thigh revolve up towards the ceiling. And then bend your knee 90 degrees so the sole of your foot is pointing towards the ceiling. So you feel your hamstring engaged here. As you inhale, straighten your leg again so your glute is active. And as you exhale, curl your heel in towards your tush. One more time, inhale, extend and get long. And exhale, curl your heel in towards your tush and either stay here or with your strap or with your hand, reach your left hand back, catch your right ankle, and open up your chest. Press the shoulder blades into the front of the body, feeling the cavity for your chest expand. Breathe. Good. Release your ankle, stretch forward and backward. Feel the midline of your body as if you could supercharge it like a highway. And then slowly release the limbs back down to the floor. You're going to start to circle your left knee around and around. You stabilize your pelvis. You feel the movement of your thigh bone inside your hip socket. And pay attention to all the muscles that are participating. Notice if, like me, your toes are stuck. See if you can not have your toes be stuck. We're going to do this a bunch of times so we feel that warmth building in our hip socket. And then circle the other way. Next time your knee is straight out to the side, hold your knee out to the side. Take your right elbow out to the side. As you inhale, reach the arm forward, stretch the leg backward. As you exhale, bend the elbow and the knee out to the side. Good. Inhale, extend and get long. Find the support in the abdominal wall. Exhale, bend the elbow, bend the knee.
One more time. Inhale, extend out and get long. Exhale, bend the elbow, bend the knee. Good. Place your hand down. Extend your legs straight back behind you. Feel that inner thigh revolve up towards the sky. Firm your left glute. So your left glute is working, but don't forget about lifting up the lowest part of your belly. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, contract the belly of your hamstring muscle to bend your heel towards your tush. And as you inhale, extend and get long again. Twice more. 4 count breath. Exhaling, pausing, inhaling, pausing, finding your abdominals one more time. This time hold it in, and if you want, reach your right arm back, catch a hold of your left ankle, lift your thigh bone away from the floor a little bit more, and imagine you could arch your upper right chest up. So if the upper moon of your right chest could shine forward. Good, release your ankle, reach your arm forward, reach your leg backward, and return your limbs back down to the mat. Good job, you guys. So, take your hands about 3 inches forward, tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog, nice and slow. As you reach your hips away from your shoulders, press down through the inner palms and feel the underside of the forearms trying to lift up as if you could create architecture to support the bones. Roll the eyes of your biceps up towards the ceiling so your triceps hug in. Bend your knees a little bit more and see if you could stretch the pubic bone even higher. And then, without thinking about straightening the legs necessarily, think about the heels just becoming a little bit heavier. Step your feet so that they're side by side. Inhale your right leg up to the sky and open up your hip, let your leg drape open. Just feel that stretch in your hip. If you want to circle an ankle or a knee, feel free. Good, and then revolve back to neutral. Feel that right inner thigh lifting up towards the ceiling. Take an inhale. As you exhale, shift forward, bring your right knee towards your right tricep and step your foot outside of your right hand. Drop your back knee down to the floor. Take a block. Put the block to the inside of your left foot on a higher setting than you normally would, because we're going to place the forearm down on the block. So you might want a high setting here, right? Your forearm is down on the block. Now I want you to lift up out of your shoulder joint and revolve your entire torso up towards the ceiling. So you're churning your belly. You're exploring with every breath. Can you more fully animate this posture? Good, and then slowly revolve back down out of the twist. Grab your second block, place the blocks on either side of your right foot, and shift your hips backwards, coming into a hamstring stretch. You can lift your right toes up towards the ceiling, and notice if your hips have swiveled to the left side of your mat. Try to keep your hips on the midline of your mat, even though your leg is off on an angle a little bit. Good, and then rebend your right knee. And we're gonna go for lizard pose. So we're gonna take the block down, whatever setting you want, so that you can come down onto your forearms on the block. Let the left front thigh magnetize down towards the floor as the right outer knee magnetizes out towards the right. Great. And then walk it back up on top of your palms. Tuck your back toes under. Lift your back knee up off of the mat. And then walk your hands towards your left foot, coming into Skandasana towards the left. So you're bending into your left knee. Your right toes are up towards the ceiling. You're feeling a nice big stretch, likely through your right inner thigh. Good. So your right toes are already lifted up towards the ceiling. So if you were to put your toes down, they would be facing forward, right? Slowly start to walk your hands towards your right leg, Allow your left foot to turn in a little bit. Line up heel to arch alignment. Take that block you already have. Place it to the inside of your right ankle and place your hand down on the block. Take your left arm up towards the sky. So your elbow and your knee are bracing into one another. And the more you do that, the more you're able to pull that right sitting bone underneath you. Imagine you could open up your chest by stretching your left fingertips up towards the ceiling a little bit more. And there's a spiral in the torso here, so the right lung spins down towards the floor as the left lung expresses up towards the ceiling. Good, now slowly spiral your left arm back down, revolve to the ball of your foot, move your blocks aside, place your hands on either side, and step back into a downward facing dog. Observe your downward facing dog. Can you feel the sides of your waist growing longer? Can you feel the muscles through the back of your legs growing longer? Imagine somebody was pulling your hips backwards so that the more weight was standing in your feet versus your hands. And then step your feet so that they're side by side. Inhale your left leg up to the sky. Open up your hip, let your leg drape open. Same thing, if you want to explore where do you typically go and what can you do instead, what's worth exploring. We really just want to find curiosity in this practice. What we don't want in this practice is ambition. Extend your left leg straight back behind you. Feel that left inner thigh revolve up towards the ceiling. Take a big inhale. As you exhale, slowly shift forward. Bring your left knee to your left tricep. Hover for a second. Push the floor away. And then step your foot outside of your hand. Drop your back knee down to the floor. Find your block again. Remember, we're going to put the forearm down on the block. So it's like the strength of a karate chop through your forearm and your hand, your right arm. Revolve the left arm up towards the ceiling. It's a little bit different, right? It takes a little bit of the pressure out of our shoulder so that we can express a little bit more. Finding that spiral circular action, it's pretty much infinite. Can you feel as if a spiral, like a tornado, was coming out of your pelvis and expressing through the top of your skull? Good, now revolve yourself down, bring your second block to the outside of your left foot, and shift your hips backwards into a hamstring stretch. And then observe, where do your hips go? Imagine you were trying to drag your left heel backwards without it actually moving so that you feel your thigh bone plugging right into your hip socket. Good, and then we're gonna go for lizard, so re-bend your left knee. Take your block, take your forearms down to the block, and as the front of your right hip sinks forward and down, your outer left knee sinks out towards the left. This is a pretty passive lizard shape, so make sure that, you know, the other day when we were pandiculating and engaging the muscles while in the stretch, you might want to do a little bit of that here, almost as if you were yawning, so that you can engage those muscles. Make sure that you're not just hanging out in your ligaments and joints. Good. And then we're going to walk it back up to the palms. Tuck the back toes under. We're going to walk the hands all the way to the right foot for Skandasana. So walk your hands over, and as you do, shift the weight into your right. Take the left toe straight up towards the ceiling. You can place your fingertips down on the floor or on a block. Good. Now you see your left toes, if you put them down, they're going to go straight forward. Start to shift the weight forward, walk your hands over, bend your left knee, find heel to arch alignment, turn your right foot slightly in, and take that block to the inside of your left ankle. Elbow and knee seal against one another so that you use that as leverage to open your chest as you come into Parsvottanasana. Deep, steady breathing here. Press a little bit more energy through the outer edge of your back right foot. So it almost feels as if the inner thigh of your right leg, that muscle, is lifting up into the bone. Awesome. Slowly spiral it down. Pivot to the ball of your back foot. Move the blocks aside. And then step back into a downward facing dog. Great. Now separate your feet as wide as your yoga mat. And slowly walk your hands all the way back to your feet. So your feet are nice and wide. Clasp your opposing elbows and just let your spine let go completely, feeling the sides of the waist get long. You can gently pull your elbows down towards the floor and observe what is the effect. Good, and then release your fingertips to the floor. Turn your toes out just a little bit, maybe 45 degrees or less. And then bend your knees and come down to a deep squat malasana. So it's like we were doing our happy baby or our malasana on our backs. Now we're doing it here. So hands together in front of your heart. Just allow the pelvis to sink down. As you inhale, imagine the breath pouring in through the top of your skull. And as you exhale, imagine sending it down and out through the legs. So we're going to play with this a little bit, and you guys have options, okay? So some of you guys are going to stay down on this squat, and you're going to marinate here. Some of you guys are going to take the arms straight up towards the ceiling. As you inhale, imagine the breath pouring in through the crown of your head. And as you exhale, start to send the energy down through the legs so that you start to stand up. When you're about halfway through the stand, start to inhale, and at the top of the inhale, get your chest to lift up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, sink back down, all the way down into the squat. Arms stay lifted. Inhale, you feel that breath pour in through the crown of your head, and as you exhale, start to engage the legs to press yourself back up. When you're halfway there, inhale and allow that inhale to pour into your chest. Lift your heart. And as you exhale, squat all the way back down again. Good. Place your hands down on the mat. Lift the sides of your hips up and heel toe your feet so that they're hip distance apart. Good. Now slowly walk your hands all the way forward, passing through downward facing dog into a plank shape. Press your heels against an imaginary wall behind you. Imagine that energy was shooting out through the crown of your head and the midline of your body from the inseams of your ankles all the way to the crown of your head are supercharged. Now we might need to find a little bit of grit. Keep holding, keep pushing the floor away, keep finding the strength of your abdominal wall. And on your next exhale breath, super slow motion to lower your belly all the way down to the floor. Good. Uncurl your toes, press the tops of your feet down into the mat. Use your strap or reach your arms back behind you. Clasp your right thumb on top of your left thumb. The elbows are bent. Bring the inner elbows in towards one another. Press the left and the right side of the pubic bone down into the floor. And as you extend your arms back behind you, imagine that you could peel your chest from the top to the bottom away from the floor like a piece of sticky tape. Soften the muscles in your face, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and project your shoulder blades into the front of your body. Then with your pinky toes leaving the floor last, lift up from your inner thighs so the feet are not so much lifting up but lengthening back behind you. Take one more inhale, and as you exhale, release it down. Good. Place your hands by the sides of your body. You can make any transition you want, so you can either transition straight back to downward facing dog or take this from the ground to plank. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, engage your belly muscles, push the floor away, come into a plank pose. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, take your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Step your feet so that they're side by side again. Inhale your right leg up to the sky, open up your hip, let your leg drape open. Do whatever you need to do here. Observe if your left hip is falling out towards the left, and you stay on the line.
and then reset. Allow your right leg, right inner thigh to revolve up towards the ceiling. Big inhale. As you exhale, right knee, right tricep. Good, now step your foot outside of your hand. You can always go back to what we did earlier or keep your back knee lifted and spiral your chest up towards the ceiling, coming into the twist. You can place a block underneath your left hand if you need to. So there's this idea of a supercharged midline that we're working with. So really engage from that inner left leg and imagine that line of energy all the way through your chest. Then take your top arm and stretch over your ear, pinky side of your hand turning down. Long line of energy from that back foot all the way through your right fingertips. Good, now spiral your right hand back down, catch your two blocks, and hop your back foot in about a third of the way, straighten your right leg for hamstring stretch, for pyramid pose. Revolve both inner thighs towards the back wall. Imagine you could keep sliding your navel a little bit closer and a little bit lower on your right thigh. Good, and then rebend your right knee. Wiggle your back foot backwards a little bit more. And then coming into lizard pose once again, but this time with your back knee lifted, although you could always choose to put it back down. And the second time you come into something, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe there's something else that you can pay attention to. Good. Walk it back up to your palms. Walk your hands towards your left foot. Come back into Skandasana towards the left. Right toes up towards the ceiling. Breathe here. Notice the places where gravity is making you curl in, and find extension instead. Look at your right toes. Mindfully place your right toes as you walk your hands across, and there's a little adjusting as you set up heel to arch alignment. Take your block again, place the block to the inside of your right ankle. Right knee stands right on top of the right ankle. Left arm spirals up towards the ceiling. We're back in Parsvottanasana. How does it feel? What inner strengths do you need to utilize in this moment? How does that differ? Good. Now we're going to stay right here, except press the mound of your right big toe and straighten your right leg. So we're transitioning into Trikonasana here. As you move towards Trikonasana, take your left arm over your ear. So you feel that big stretch through the left side of the body. And let's do that a couple of times with a flow. So as your arm comes back up towards the ceiling, rebend your right knee. Allow your elbow and your knee to make contact. And as you inhale, stretch your left arm over your ear as you straighten your right leg. Good. Bend your right knee. Exhale. Come back into Parsvottanasana. And as you inhale, return to Trikonasana. Good, now take your top arm straight back up towards the sky. Rebend your right knee. And use your core, rise up to Warrior Two. Great. So remember, the other day we were talking about in Warrior Two, if we have the hips on an angle. So check and make sure your pelvis is on that diagonal. You create that tiny twist in your rib cage and your chest so that they're facing forward. Good. And then bend your knee, your elbows 90 degrees like cactus arms. Wrap your back left arm underneath your right arm. You can give yourself a hug, or you can come into Garudasana, eagle arms. Move the palms away from your face. Float the elbows up with the shoulder blades down. Feel where your rib cage is relative to your pelvis. Good, and then release your arms. Warrior Two again. Drop your left arm to the back of your left thigh. Big opening, reverse your warrior. Inhale. And I know this is a big transition, but we're going to transition from here to Ardha Chandrasana. So find your block along the way.
Hop your back foot in a little bit closer if you need to, and float your back heel to the height of your sitting bone for Ardha Chandrasana. Stirrup traveling up the right, the inseam and the inseam and the right seam. I cannot say that. Inseam and outseam of your right leg, left arm up to the sky. Good. Slowly start to bend your right knee, reach your left leg way back behind you. Once you land, reverse your warrior again. Good, and as you exhale, cartwheel your hands down, pivot your back foot, and step back into downward facing dog. Keep pushing the front of your yoga mat towards the front of the room. Keep pressing your heels down towards the earth. Inhale your left leg up to the sky, bend your knee, let your legs drape open, do whatever you need to do. Slowly start to revolve that left inner thigh up towards the ceiling. Slowly start to shift forward the left knee, left tricep, and step your foot to the outside of your hand. Good, so you can take a block underneath your right hand if you need it. Otherwise, peel it open into that twist. So your rib cage, the energy is moving from the inseam of your right leg through your pelvis, through the center of your rib cage, through the center of your skull. Good. Slowly revolve your arm back down. Take both of your blocks on either side of your left foot. Hop your back foot in about a third of the way. Allow your left leg to straighten, coming into that pyramid pose. Imagine you were stepping on the gas pedal with the ball of your left foot. Keep pressing it down and observe if your other toes are clenching. Try not to clench your toes. Good, and then rebend your left knee. Wiggle your back foot back a little bit more. You always have the option to put the back knee down, or we come into lizard pose with the back knee lifted. So set up your block to the inside of your left foot. You take your forearms down. You should also take your knee down and make it a little bit more passive. Good, and then we're going to walk our hands towards the right foot, coming into Skandasana. Left toes up towards the ceiling, and everything that gravity is doing to make you curl in, do the opposite. Look at your left toes. Place them mindfully down. As you transition into Parsvakonasana, adjust your back foot, heel to arch alignment, block to the inside of your left ankle, right arm up to the sky. Good, now you're going to start to press into the mound of your left big toe, straighten your left leg, feel the crease of your left hip deepen, and extend your right arm over your ear. And as you exhale, return to Parsvakonasana, right arm up to the sky. Inhale, you're lengthening, you're pressing the mound of your left big toe, you're lengthening your leg, you're lengthening your right side waist. Exhale, you're finding your way back to Parsvakonasana. Good, one more time, stretch it over. Good, and then find your way back into Parsvakonasana, arm to the sky. Use your core and rise up to Warrior Two. Seal the outer edge of your back right foot down. Make sure that the torso is aligned. Good. Wrap your back right arm underneath your left arm, or give yourself a hug, coming into Garudasana arms, or give yourself a hug, float the elbows up, move the palms away from the face, broaden your back so you're actually widening the space of the back of your heart. Breathe. Good, and then release the arms, come back into Warrior Two, flip your left palm, inhale, reverse the warrior nice and deep. And as you exhale, you're going to make that transition to Ardha Chandrasana. So catch your block on the way. right foot in just a tiny bit more. Set your block up and float your right heel to the height of your sitting bone. The inseam and the outseam of your left leg are lifting energy up evenly from the ground. Good. Slowly start to bend your left knee. Reach your right leg way back behind you. And once you land, reverse that warrior on an inhale. And on an exhale, cartwheel your hands down. Pivot to the ball of your back foot. And step back into downward facing dog. Inhale, shift forward to the top of a push-up. Press your heels back against that imaginary wall. Find that sense of grit here. And maybe even some gratitude for the strength of your body, for this vehicle, for this instrument that you get to tone. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, super slow motion, lower your belly all the way down to the mat. Flip your feet over, press the tops of your feet, especially the pinky toenails, down into the floor. Use your strap or reach your arms around behind your back, left thumb on top of the right. Inner elbows squeeze towards one another. And as you press the left and the right side of your pubic bone down, scoop your belly button away from the floor. Start to straighten your arms and at the same time experience your chest peeling up away from the floor. Facial expression soft, legs long. Imagine the inner thigh side of your legs floating up to lengthen your legs so much. Project the shoulder blades into the front of the body. Good. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, release it down. Place your hands by the sides of your body and then either transition through plank to downward facing dog or press yourself straight up and back into downward facing dog. Okay. Separate your feet as wide as your yoga mat again and walk your hands all the way back towards your feet. Clasp your opposing elbows, the other forearm on top this time. Sway your body from side to side. Pull your elbows down. Lift the sides of your hips up. Good, and then drop your fingertips to the floor. Turn your toes out 45 degrees. Bend your knees and come back down into a yogi squat. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Same thing we did before. Take the arms up to the sky as you inhale. Feel the breath pouring in through the top of your head. As you exhale, start to translate that energy into the strength of your legs. Halfway through, you inhale, you feel your heart rise. Reach the arms back. And as you exhale, squat all the way back down again. One more time. Inhale, pour the breath in. Exhale, send the energy down through your legs. When you're ready to inhale, lift your chest up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, squat all the way back down. Lift the sides of your hips up. Heel toe your feet so that they are hip distance apart. And you can either stay here or you can keep heel toeing them a little closer together so your big toes touch and your heels are slightly apart. You choose. Bend your knees. Circle your arms at the back of your mat. Utkatasana, chair pose. Good. Shift the weight into your left foot. Start to curl your right knee in towards your chest and cross your right ankle over your left knee. So we did this when we were lying on our back. Strong flexion, you can't help it in the left foot. Strong flexion of the right foot. And slowly start to descend your hips a little bit lower. Keep reaching the arms like fierce pose, right? Like those arms are expressing the strength, the grit, maybe the gratitude. Good, and then stand all the way up. Hug your knee with both hands. Keep hugging your knee with your left hand. Take your right arm forward and go up and over and around. Reach towards the back of the mat. Finding your balance, maybe even gazing towards your right hand. Look back to the front. Take both arms up to the sky and sit back down into chair pose, fierce pose. Good. Shift the weight into your right foot Press your left ankle over your knee. Sit a little lower. Strong flexion of that left foot. The arms are fierce. The shoulder blades are trying to compartmentalize the sides of the body. They're trying to make your back grow broader. Good. Now start to stand all the way up. Draw your knee in towards your chest. Hug your knee with both hands. Pause. Knee is in your right hand. Left arm reaches forward. Reach your arm up, over, around, and back. So you're reaching for the back, and allow your gaze, perhaps, to follow your fingertips. You guys look awesome. Good job. Good. Look back to the front. Come back down into your chair pose. Fierce pose. Reach those arms. Big inhale. Good. And as you exhale, fold forward. Straighten the legs. Heel to your feet so that they're hip distance apart again. Walk your hands forward, passing through downward facing dog on your way to plank pose. Find that grit. Find that mindfulness to be here. Circulate your awareness. If you have a repetitive thought that this is hard or too long, see if you can change that thought. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, lower your belly all the way down onto the floor. Good. So bend your knees 90 degrees, heels towards the ceiling. Press your pubic bone down into the floor. And then imagine you were pulling your yoga mat backwards and start to peel your chest away from the floor. Keep pressing the pubic bone down and lifting the belly button up. Press the shoulder blades to the front of the body. Engage the hamstrings as if you could lift the heels a little bit higher. Hands are still down on the floor. Good. Take one inhale. As you exhale, release. Good. Bend your knees again. Press the pubic bone down. Imagine you could lift the heels a little higher. Feel how the pubic bone gets a little closer to the floor. Pull your hands backwards on the yoga mat. Peel your chest away. Stay here or reach back and catch your ankles. If you catch your ankles, press your shins backwards to lift your chest a little higher. Then lift your thigh bones away from the floor so that your chest becomes a little taller. Make sure your knees are not splaying apart from one another. Take one more inhale, and as you exhale, release it down. Make a little pillow for your forehead. Bend your knees 90 degrees again, and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Good. And then place your legs back down. Place your hands by your sides, and press your hips back into a child's pose. Just let your hips keep magnetizing back towards your heels. And then from here, I invite you guys to take any hip opener that you like. So you can take thread the needle on your back, you can go back up to downward facing dog and take single pigeon. I know a lot of you guys like single pigeon. You can come to a seat, cross your shins and simply fold forward. You can take double pigeon, you can stack the ankle on top of the knee on both sides, fold forward. You could take a seated hip opener. So whichever one you're going to choose, allow yourself to settle into it. And of those key inner strengths that I mentioned, which one comes the most easily to you? Is it the grit? Is it the compassion? Is it the emotional intelligence? Is it the gratitude? Is it the mindfulness? And which one is the most challenging for you? Where can you still grow? how can you see that growth? How can you observe that through the lens of this practice? What moments were offered to you today to allow you to see where there was room for opportunity, room for growth? So I'll be quiet for the next 30 seconds. You guys just breathe into your hips. And if there's anything emotional that's coming up, and any of that stuff, just see if you can surf the wave. And then make your transition slowly to your second side. So what is that music that your soul wants to express? What is that life force that's animating this healthy body, that's giving you a vehicle or an instrument by which to place that music out there into the world? Think about that spirit that is embodied inside of this physical body. In Sanskrit, they're called different layers, and what the layer that's the physical body translates to a bag of rice. Doesn't mean that our physical body is unimportant, but when we no longer have our breath to animate our body, we're just organic material. We go back to earth. So it's really that breath that's enlivening us, that is giving us the chance to express as humans this life that we have. So I'll be quiet. Give yourself roughly 20 more seconds to just breathe into it. And then wherever you are, find your way into a seated position. So as you come into that seated position, extend your legs out in front of you. And then bend your right leg so that your heel comes in fairly close to your tush. Yeah. And then cross your right leg over your left leg. If you want to fold your left leg underneath you, go for it. Be a little bit more of a hip opener that way. Extend the left arm up to the ceiling. Contract your belly muscles to revolve your belly button to look at the inner right thigh. And then either hug or hook your elbow around your knee. And as you inhale, envision that spiral staircase ascending up the length of your spine. And as you exhale, allow yourself to twist into it a little bit deeper. Take one more round of breath. And then look forward. Nice to see you. Slowly release. Extend your right leg back out. Bend your left knee. Slide it in as close as you can without sinking your spine, right? So use that to help yourself sit up nice and tall. Then cross it over. Double fold if you like. Right arm up to the sky. And then contract your belly to revolve so that the right side of your belly button is trying to look at your left inner thigh. Hug or hook. And as you inhale, imagine you are ascending that spiral staircase around your spine. And as you exhale, you are feeling the belly button turn just a little bit more towards that inner thigh. Let's take one more round of breath. And slowly release. Extend both legs out in front of you. Take the arms up to the ceiling, lift the chest. And then think about your pelvis revolving over your thighs. So you might not go very far. So what I'm trying to illuminate here is that this crease is what's deepening. We're not keeping like a beach ball here and sinking around it. We're trying to deepen the crease. So you might place your hands in the hip creases and just feel that angle decrease. And maybe you didn't move your chest all that much, but that's okay. And then you can let your spine release over your legs. Three deep, steady breaths on a 4-second count. And when you're done, lie all the way down on your back or choose a seated meditation instead. Good. Let your body fully accept whatever position it is that you've chosen. So if you're lying down on your back, you're surrendering to gravity. You're allowing the earth to support all of your body, your torso, your limbs, your head, all of the architecture that makes up your body. You're just surrendering it into the earth. And you're releasing your breath. So even though the breath is still breathing, you can release any conscious control and just come into that place of trust and surrender, where the meaning and the purpose of your life continues to unfold. It continues to illuminate itself to you. Not in this moment. In this moment, it's like the whole system is just cooling down. It's like allowing your computer to go to sleep. Relax your face, relax your jaw. Spend the next few moments that we're here communing with that inner spirit, feeling what's happening, where that breath meets the body, the spark of that life force. For our last few moments in Shavasana, or seated meditation, whichever one you chose, I want you to bring your attention to an acorn. So an acorn contains an entire oak tree inside of itself in its potentiality. And it's the same thing as our potentiality when we are in tune, body, mind, and spirit. What we can bring to the world is magnificent. Thinking about that potentiality that's born of your own inner strength, and that inner strength which is within your power to cultivate more of. It's pretty epic if you think about it. So just allowing your thoughts to become a little bit more energizing as you start to maybe move your fingers and your toes. Maybe you take a nice long stretch. Really, you're just following that inner wisdom, that inner guidance, which is part of our inner strength, is learning to trust that inner voice, to bring you out of your practice and to help set you up for your day. We'll all come together in a seated position. Bring the hands together in front of your heart in a gesture of unifying left and right, inner and outer, light and shadow, all of the different parts of ourselves. We accept and make space for all of them. And then we tap into those inner strengths that we discussed today: grit, compassion, mindfulness, emotional intelligence. Did I say compassion already? Feel those in your heart. Namaste.